If you want to support the show, the best way you can is through any of the books or current ongoing Vela shorts that are being released on a regular basis. The easiest way to find this is to go to bit.ly/tmrbooks, and you'll have links there to everything. All of my Kindle books are available for free. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you don't have to pay anything. You get it with your subscription. You can read them all. They're all in screenplay format. That includes Swan Song, The Muses, Duet, In the End, Our Past Does Not Define Us. Anything else that I've written that's available on Kindle, it's available there. You can buy a soft cover if you want. There's a hardcover collection of all of the Swan Song books, all combined into one. That's available as a hardcover. You can pre-order Echo Alpha, which is coming out in November. All of these things are available if you go on Amazon. But quick link, if you go bit.ly/tmrbooks, I have them all there, nice, easily cataloged. Also, down toward the bottom, we have the Kindle Vela content. The first 3 episodes are always free, and then after that, there's a token system that you can use to read. Even if you don't like it, just give it a thumbs up. That way we can get it up higher so more people see it. So one final time, that's bit.ly/tmrbooks, and every Wednesday there's a new Vela book that goes up. Taser and Acrobat, Nanite and Rosebud, Tales from Another World, and The Alchemist and the Illusionist. All go up on Wednesdays, and it's all available on Kindle Vela. All of this is available bit.ly/tmrbooks. Sorry to overload the front, but before we start, one final thing. If you can please go on Apple Podcasts, if that's how you listen, and give us a 5-star rating, that would mean a lot. We're trying to get on to Rotten Tomatoes and sites like that, and we need to get more reviews to be accepted. So if you can go on and give us a 5-star review there, that would be amazing. Thank you very much. We appreciate everything you guys do when you listen. Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. So I just saw the Last Night in Soho. Oh, I'm sorry, not The Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho. And it is Edgar Wright's latest movie. I don't know what to really say about this. Besides the fact, here's the nicest thing I can say about this movie. Is it's like an hour shorter than Dune, because I saw Dune at 6 o'clock last Thursday. And now here I am Wednesday seeing this at an advanced screening, and I'm leaving the theater at an earlier time than I saw Dune, which is good. I mean, look, if you're gonna tell a story, tell it in 2 hours. I love movies that will have me in and out in 2 hours. I do not want to sit here, especially if it's a movie I'm not gonna like. Now, I went into this totally blind. I had no idea anything about it. The only thing I knew was Thomas and Mackenzie was the lead. I knew that Anya Taylor-Joy had a major role because they're both on the poster. And I knew Edgar Wright was directing. That's it. Didn't know anything else about this movie. And I think that, to an extent, that's the best way to see this movie, is to pretend that like go in without seeing it. Now, had you seen the trailer, you probably know more than me. I don't know how much the trailer showed to be able to say, like, oh, it's good or it's bad or it's representative or not. Because, like, The Last Duel, its trailers were not representative of the final product, which is a problem in and of itself. But here, it's, that's the thing. So the basic plot is you have this girl who's from, the countryside of England. She gets to go to school. So she goes to school, and she can't stand living in her dorm, so she moves off campus into this little old lady's upstairs apartment. They say her last name in the movie, but I'm just gonna call her Mrs. Hudson because the boarding house she was living in was a lot like 221B Baker Street, from the Sherlock TV show on BBC with Benedict Cumberbatch. So then she starts seeing ghosts. She starts dreaming and seeing this girl who wants to be a star in the 60s. And here's the thing about a movie that's not taking full advantage of the full time. If you're going to tell a story in a movie, you have, I would say, 2.5 hours. You can go longer if you're a director who has clout, or if you're a director who, or if it's an established franchise, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Dune, Avengers Endgame. These movies all went over that 2.5 hours. But if 2.5 hours, you're stretching it a little bit, but I feel okay seeing a 2.5 hour movie. If you're going to do it in less time than 2.5 hours, I expect the movie to have some semblance of clarity to it, or like something explaining what's going on, because I'd like to think I'm not a dumb person. I think that that's something that anyone would like to think. But I watch this movie and I'm like, I don't understand what the fuck is going on. And the movie makes no effort to explain that, and I'm kind of okay with that if they're going to make no effort to explain. I can live in that reality. If they're like, we're not going to explain to you what's going on in this movie, I can deal. I don't need it, spoon-fed to me to the point where it's I need to understand the plot. I don't need, to the point where it's in Endgame, there's that line that the Hulk has where he's talking about the radiation being gamma, and he's like, it's I was made for this. I don't need that line. I know other people do, but, because it's not everyone knows, but whatever. So, I don't need those expository lines, but, that. Just something that resembles some explanation for what the fuck I'm watching would be nice, I think. I don't think that's asking a lot. I think that's a pretty straightforward request. If you're going to show me a movie, if you're going to make a movie that's going to be about whatever this is about, and the thing is, it's if we take the movie and put it in the hands of a director who's not Edgar Wright, I think the movie is kind of irredeemable. But because Edgar Wright has his, it has his flourishes and his stylistic choices, we can kind of deal with a lot of what happens in this movie in that regard. And it's the twist that they have in the movie isn't exactly the deepest twist in the history of humanity, because I picked it out in the first, as soon as we meet the character the twist involves. I don't want to spoil it in case anyone wants to go out and see the movie, but as soon as they meet, they introduce you to the character that the twist involves. You're like, oh, okay, I know where this is going now. I don't think that it is anything I don't know, nothing really stands out to me. It's not even if I was sitting here and I was like, oh, if you like horror movies, you might like this movie, but it's it doesn't do the horror well. It's what it does well is what it does well is visually. Visually it's stunning. The sound amazing. All of that kind of stuff that you'd come to expect from an Edgar Wright movie is there. If you see Baby Driver, that movie does a lot with music and and that's his thing, is he takes music and puts it into the plot of the movie and gives it a large role, and that works well. But here, it's if you don't do that, then what's the point of me watching this movie? If you're not going to do a good enough job to keep the story underneath interesting. It's this is the style over substance movie that we talk about when we talk about style over substance, where it's there is no substance to this movie. I don't understand how this movie's getting as good reviews as it does, because it's it doesn't do even the societal critique that it kind of is trying to do. Where it's the guy Jack in the movie is kind of Harvey Weinstein, to an extent. Not specifically where it's he's not, sleeping with her to get a role, but he's taking advantage of her dream and using her, as a prostitute. And that's kind of there's a critique there, and there's, especially in this day and age in Hollywood, that you can do, but it doesn't do it well or interesting. You don't have any reason to do that. And then by the time we get to the third act and everything kind of comes together, again, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's like, this is the direction you're taking this. Like, there's a better way to do this, especially if we're already in the realm of paranormal horror. And like, the entire third act, this is something that kind of bothered me, was the entire third act is predicated on nightmare logic. For those of you who don't know, nightmare logic refers to, in a horror movie, when characters don't act rationally, they act as if it's in a nightmare. Whereas, like, if you're in a dream and you're having a nightmare, you don't act like you do in real life. You take dumb decisions and you do things that you would never do if you were in that real situation. And a lot of horror movies are predicated on this, and because they're in this situation, you can kind of excuse it a lot of the time, but I don't think you can here. And, like, the entire third act conflict is predicated on it. And I think that's a problem. Like, that's a problem structurally and all of that. Now, here's the thing, and here's the weird situation we're in, is that due to COVID, this movie's not on streaming because it's the traditional theatrical release. At the same time, it's something that you should view in theaters. And I think that, like Baby Driver, even if you don't like the genre or you don't like the subject matter or the movie doesn't interest you, visually and the way that they do a lot with sound effects and all of that, it's meant to be watched on the big screen. And I think that if you were to watch it on streaming, what little there is to understand, you would miss. Because the way it plays with mirrors and all of that, like, the minutia of detail is great, and it's great you're going to go to that length of detail, where it's like when she falls asleep and she's in the mirror and she's in the past with Anya Taylor-Joy, and the two of them flip in the mirror to the point where it's like, even when she's running past a mirror and you see, instead of Anya Taylor-Joy running, in the reflection you see Thomas and Mackenzie. I don't, like, that's great. It's great that you went to those lengths. I truly commend you for going to those lengths. But if you're going to do that, make sure the movie works. Like, you know, that's ultimately my problem here, is that, like, a lot of the movie doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make an attempt to make it make sense, and it's like, I want to see decisions that happen in the movie happen for a reason that, even if it doesn't make sense to someone watching it, you can kind of chalk it up to poor decision making because they're in a horror movie. Unfortunately, this movie doesn't do that. So I'm stuck in a situation now where I can't in good conscience recommend it based on story content, but it should be watched in a theater. That said, due to COVID, it may not be in everyone's best interest to go to the movies to see this movie. So maybe if you're in a high-risk category, maybe wait for streaming. Like, it probably isn't that big of a deal if you wait for streaming. But if you can go, it's one of those things where it's like, it's pretty, but it's got no depth. Like, it's the way Danny Phantom described Paulina in the pilot of Danny Phantom, or I'm sorry, Sam defined Paulina in that episode, where it's like, it's pretty, but it's got no depth, and it's like, cool, but like, not worth going out and seeing in theaters this weekend, especially when you can go and you can see The Last Duel, or you can see Dune, or any number of other movies. This one, I would maybe wait on. And I hate saying that because I do like Edgar Wright as a director, but I think every director is allowed to misfire once in a while. And this is, it's a blemish, but at the same time, it's like, it's a pretty blemish. A beauty mark, if you will, on his resume. So with that, we'll wrap up for today. Later this week, we have The French Dispatch at some point. And what was the other one? There's another big one. The Eternals next Thursday, The Eternals, which is getting panned by critics. But I will discuss it anyway. So until then, have a great rest of your week. Do you like the show? Do you hate the show? Are you indifferent to the show? No matter what, you should probably let us know what we're doing so we can change it to better suit you, the listener's needs. You can go to either bit.ly/BOS contact, which is a contact form page you can use. Also, you can just email us directly at 30minutereviews@gmail.com. If you have questions that you would like us to answer, we can answer them on the air. We have a few questions every week that will be selected to be answered on air. So if you want to tell us what we should do, or if you have a suggestion for a movie or a TV show or something we should cover, go to bit.ly/BOS contact and also email us 30minutereviews@gmail.com.